Nairobi, a city that never truly sleeps. Behind the blinding lights, the chaos of traffic, the pulse of ambition, darkness festers. It lurks in alleyways, in broken promises, in the places we dare not look. And on this night, it came for one of its brightest voices. Her name was Lilian Achieng Aluko, radio presenter, rising star, only 33 years old. But within hours of leaving the studio, her voice, the one that entertained thousands, was silenced forever.
Hello and welcome back to Murder Mystery Kenya, your home for the deepest, most gripping true crime and mystery stories from right here in Kenya and beyond. First, a huge thank you to all our amazing subscribers. Your support means the world to us. Every like, every comment, and every share helps keep these incredible stories alive. If you're new here, karibu sana. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. Your support helps us dig deeper, uncover the truth, and tell even more chilling stories you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's dive into today's mystery.
Kasarani, a sprawling Nairobi estate, teeming with life, bustling markets, endless traffic, and crowded flats stacked like tombs. By day, ordinary, by night, unforgiving. What happened to Lilian wasn't random. It wasn't just another Nairobi tragedy. It was violent, it was personal, and it sent shockwaves far beyond her studio walls. It was here, between these streets, that Lilian's final moments played out. Not in the safety of her studio, not surrounded by fans, but in the shadows where betrayal and brutality found her. Her murder wasn't clean, it wasn't quick, it was rage unleashed on her flesh, the kind of violence that leaves scars not just on her body, but on her community's soul. Lilian wasn't just another young woman, she was ambition carved into human form. From humble beginnings, she rose with a defiant energy, her voice cutting through Nairobi's airwaves. She laughed with her listeners, she carried their pain, she was a friend in the night to thousands who tuned in. And yet, behind the microphone, Lilian was still a woman navigating love, pressure, and survival in a city that eats its own. Every murder story has shadows, but Lilian's shadows were close, too close. Whispers spoke of lovers, of jealousy, of betrayal that curdled into bloodshed. This wasn't a faceless predator. This was someone who knew her, someone who wanted her silenced. And when police stepped into the chaos, they weren't met with clarity. They were met with lies, contradictions, and suspects who looked less like strangers and more like familiar faces. What makes it shocking, Kenya has seen murders before, brutal killings that grip the headlines only to fade. But this was different, because Lilian wasn't anonymous. She was a voice that lived inside people's homes, in their cars, in their headphones at midnight. Her murder didn't just kill her, it silenced a frequency, left a void, forced an entire city to ask, who could butcher a woman who gave such joy, and why? Before her name would be whispered in shock and sorrow across Kenya, before her life was dissected in headlines and police reports, Lilian Achieng Aluko was a woman defined by her voice, a voice that carried laughter, hope, and connection into homes, matatus, and workplaces across the lakeside city of Kisumu. She wasn't just a radio presenter, She was the pulse of Radio 44. To listeners, Lilian felt like a friend, the one who greeted them with a warmth on grey mornings and who cracked jokes on long commutes home. Her laughter, infectious, bold, and unfiltered, made strangers forget the weight of their daily struggles. But behind the confident voice on air, there was a woman wrestling with battles the world never truly saw. But behind the microphone, Lilian's life was intertwined with a man who would later stand accused of ending it. His name, George Mwenda Mutegi. It was the night of November 1st, 2024, a night that should have ended like countless others for Lilian Achieng Aluko, the vibrant 33-year-old Radio 44 presenter. Instead, it became the stage for her final moments. Earlier that evening, Lilian had been seen with her partner, George Mwenda Mutegi, at a local entertainment spot. Witnesses recalled laughter, soft music, and drinks, an ordinary Nairobi night. But beneath the surface, something sinister simmered. Hours later, when the couple returned to Mwenda's residence in Kahawa West, Nairobi, darkness closed in. Neighbors would later tell investigators that the house was engulfed in loud music so deafening it swallowed every scream. Inside, chaos unfolded. Lilian's cries for help were smothered under the pounding beats, leaving no one outside to fully grasp the horror occurring within those walls. When silence finally fell, Lilian lay motionless. A knife, now blood-stained, was discovered near her body. The fatal blow, a stab wound behind her right ear, was precise, brutal, and deliberate. Her face bore visible injuries, evidence of a struggle, a desperate attempt to fight back against the man she trusted. The crime scene told a story louder than any words could. A confined space, walls stained with violence, and the stench of betrayal hanging in the air. This was not a random attack. This was intimate, personal, a murder committed up close. By dawn, Lilian's life had been extinguished, and her killer had vanished into the shadows. The vibrant voice that once had entertained thousands on Radio 44 was gone, silenced forever by someone she had loved. For her family, the shock was indescribable. She was a very good girl. Her mother cried, her voice cracking under the weight of grief. Her sister demanded justice, unwilling to let the tragedy be just another statistic in Nairobi's swelling tide of gender-based violence. And so, the investigation began, with the DCI piecing together Lilian's final night, tracing every step, every scream, and every drop of blood that stained the room in Kahawa West. This was no longer just a crime, it was a betrayal, an execution, and a silencing of a woman whose only crime was to trust. The murder of Lilian Achieng Aluko was not a crime that could just be ignored. A young, vibrant voice of the airwaves, silenced violently inside the walls of a small Kahawa West apartment. Her blood still fresh on the floor when detectives first arrived. The crime scene screamed betrayal, loud music to mask her death cries, a stab wound behind her ear, bruises across her face. Everything pointed to a killing both personal and savage. But while her body was being moved to the mortuary, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, was already in motion. This was no ordinary murder. They were hunting a man who had vanished into the shadows immediately after Lilian's life was taken. The prime suspect, Mwenda Mutegi, was gone by the time police broke into the locked room. He had left behind only Lilian's lifeless body and the weapon that ended her life. But killers leave trails, and the DCI knew it. Over the next 7 days, DCI homicide detectives fanned out across Nairobi and into the rural counties. They traced his phone calls, interrogated his friends, leaned on informants. Piece by piece, they narrowed his escape route. Finally, on November 8, 2024, the hunt ended in Kanwa, Tharaka Nithi County. At dawn, detectives closed in. Mwenda Mutegi, cornered, tried to blend into the rural landscape, but there is no hiding from a nationwide manhunt. He was pulled out, arrested, and shackled. His face betrayed no remorse, no shock, only the hollow expression of a man whose time had run out. Forensic note: the DCI carefully documented the arrest, ensuring the chain of custody for every detail tied back to the crime scene. His clothes, his phone, his movements, all were potential evidence. In homicide, it's never just about the weapon, it's about weaving together the final hours of the victim's life with the movements of the accused until there is no escape, no excuse, no alibis. The DCI had their man, but in the courtroom, the real battle for justice was only just beginning. Nairobi's Milimani Law Courts is not a place of comfort. Its beige walls, chipped benches, and the faint stench of disinfectant are designed to strip a person of any illusion of freedom. And on this day, in November 2024, it is here that George Mwenda Mutegi, the man accused of slashing away the life of beloved Radio 44 presenter Lilian Achieng Aluko, is brought before a judge. He enters the courtroom in shackles, his eyes darting, avoiding contact with the cameras trained on him. Behind him, DCI detectives stand like shadows, silent, unflinching, waiting to testify the horror they walked into that night in Kahawa West. The charge sheet is read out. Murder, contrary to Section 203 as read with Section 204 of the Kenyan Penal Code. The particulars: that on the night of November 1st, 2024, at Kahawa West, Nairobi County, the accused with malice aforethought murdered Lilian Achieng Aluko. The words hung heavy in the air. Murder, malice aforethought. The prosecution, led by State Counsel, paints a chilling image. The stab wound behind Lilian's right ear, facial injuries consistent with blunt force trauma. The knife, recovered from the crime scene, its blade still stained with what forensic pathologists later confirmed to be Lilian's blood. Neighbors' testimony, the screams, the music turned up loud, the silence that followed. It is a narrative of violence wrapped in betrayal. But Mwenda's defense team is quick to push back. They argue that the facts are not yet proven. The knife could have been planted, that the neighbor's testimony is unreliable, clouded by panic and darkness. They even hint at a possible scuffle gone wrong, painting the murder as an accident, anything but premeditated. For Lilian's family, seated just feet away, these arguments are daggers of their own. Her sister wipes tears. Her mother shakes her head in disbelief. They had trusted the system to protect Lilian, Now they must trust it to avenge her. The judge listens, unmoved, before making the critical ruling. Mwenda Mutegi will remain in remand custody. The case will proceed to full trial. The forensic evidence and witness testimony will be central to the prosecution's case. As he is escorted out, Mwenda manages to look up briefly, his gaze cold, unreadable. To some, it's the look of a man wrongly accused. To others, it is the stare of a predator who knows the law is closing in. And so begins the courtroom war, a battle of evidence, testimony, and legal maneuvering. For Lilian's family, justice is not just about a guilty verdict. It is about exposing the full, brutal truth of what happened behind those walls in Kahawa West. Because murder trials are not just about law, they are about memory, pain, and the silent scream of the victim whose voice has been forever extinguished. The courtroom lights dim, but the echoes of Lilian's scream still reverberate in the minds of those who know her. Every witness statement, every forensic photograph, every bloodstain on the walls of that Kahawa West house reminds us of a life violently interrupted. In the shadows of Nairobi's courtrooms, the fate of one man will be decided. But beyond those walls, a larger question lingers. Will Lilian's death be just another headline, another forgotten statistic in Kenya's growing archive of femicide, or will it finally force the country to confront the monsters hiding in plain sight? As the gavel falls and the trial advances, one truth remains. Lilian's voice has been stolen, but her silence now speaks louder than ever before.